Le programme suivant sera en anglais.
ما شاء يفعل من بعد ومكنون ربنا سكر الذي بالكاف والنون ما شاء يفعل من بعد ومكنون.
Le programme suivant sera en anglais.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah. Rabbi israh li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli saddid lisani nawir janani safi amani wadhid barai. Alhamdulillah. Once again, viewers, we're back here on this program Echo from Touba, happening every Wednesday 4:30 right here in Lamp Fall TV. We have an honorable guest today receiving Sohna May Mbake Jamil, straight from America, with a very rich alma mater, graduated from Ahmadou Hampâté by the University in Dakar, right? With a social master in economy and social, what is it again?
Economy and social.
And social, right. And an MBA in CESAC, in international accounting. Also working for herself right now, and very active in what was the health thing you were doing?
Oh, the universal self-care.
The universal healthcare system that is being run by the actual president of Senegal,
definitely,
Mr. Macky Sall. So welcome to the program, Sohna May Jamil.
Thank you, Serigne Fallou. I am really honored today to be here.
Thank you.
And especially to share this this show with you,
right.
A really good brother from the hood, like we say.
Appreciate it. Right.
It's a pleasure.
All right. It's my pleasure. Also, she has done also numerous lectures in Senegal and throughout the world. Recently, she's done one in Darou Musti, home of Thierno Birahim, Mam Thierno Birahim Mbacke, brother of Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba. But also there was this humongous lecture you had in Columbia University with very, very popular, famous professors like Mr. Diouf and Souleymane Bachir Diagne. What was the topic about?
The topic was, it was an international exhibition of Muslim nonviolence. It was organized by Serigne Abdelaziz Majalis, you know him,
right.
But also the Professor Souleymane Bachir Diagne, the Professor Mamadou Diouf, and Columbia University. And we were talking about Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba as an example of international peace.
How was it? It has a good resounding over the response?
Wonderful. People, we wanted people to discover Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba in another angle, meaning the angle of a pacifist.
Right.
When we name today Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and in those universities we forgot to talk about Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba. That's not a deal.
Absolutely.
And we wanted to do that check back and telling them that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is not only a Sufi saint in Senegal or a writer, he is a pacifist who led during centuries against the French colonizer and who won that war. So
how's the university reacted? They took the teaching inside their program or not yet?
It was wonderful. The students discovered that there's this man, this black man, and it was important to show that we're in the United States of America, and we're talking about a black man. So it was important to show that this black man did something against white people. It's important to show, and they discovered it. And recently, the Professor Souleymane Bachir Diagne came with some staff of the University of Columbia to visit with Serigne Aziz Majalis, to visit Dari Kamil and all those, and we're thinking about sending some students so that they can visit the places, and why not write their PhDs or even memories on that topic.
True, absolutely. Fantastic. So before we start really talking about the topic of the day, by the way, will be viewers, Al-Khidma. Al-Khidma is a word that you probably will find in many of the sheikh's writing, like Antal Karimu, Annal Khadimu, Daharan Udimu Fika Shanai. He's proclaiming the servanthood he is vis-a-vis of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So before we try to look all the aspects of the khidmah, we're going to start first of describing who's Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba for the viewers who never heard of the founder of the order.
Very exciting question. Saint Paulo, defining Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is hard.
Right.
The politic man will tell you he's a gorgeous politic man. The economist will tell you he's the best economist of the world, etc. Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is something that we can define. We know that he is something who came to revolution the world, who came to bring a new aspect of living, who came to share with us a very important characteristic of living and sharing. So the muridhood, it's definitely a way of living and a brotherhood in which he defined it himself. He said, no, people should consider me as Abdullahi wa Hadimu Rasuli, the slave of God and the worker of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Right.
So that is the definition that he gave to himself.
A
So that is the
reviver.
definition that we will give to him.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Lil Mustafa nawaitu ma yujaddidu sunnatul hara wa inni Ahmadu. So most of his philosophical aspect of what he truly taught to his disciple, most of it, and he lived within, was al-khidma. So what is the religious definition of that particular word of al-khidma?
Very interesting. You know, al-Hidma, and that was the object of the paper that I wrote,
Right.
naming it the theory of Hidma.
Right.
For me, Hidma, not only for me, but the basic definition, because each and every of us can give a particular, a special definition of al-Khidma.
Right.
But the common definition that we can retain is that al-Khidma is seeking God's will through humanity. Working for God through human beings. And that's what Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, because in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَابْتَحِي فِيمَا أَتَكَ اللَّهِ دَرَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْزَى نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. After searching, after working for your afterhood,
Right.
don't forget to work for the hereafter,
present time,
for
yeah.
here in the
Right,
earth.
right.
So it's important, that is working. But what kind of working? Is it stealing? Is it just going disturbing people? No. Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba said, work in which you will earn the benefit, the result will come from God, but you will work through humanity. That is what means al-khidma. And the concept also comes in a really particular situation, because it put in this, like in the process, spiritual components and temporal also component. And it's interesting to understand that, because when we talk about worshiping God or
itself,
working for God, it's mainly spiritual. But when you bring that aspect of working through people and through humanity, you are in the temporal side. So it is a concept that combines all those concepts, all those words, and all those definitions, process. And that is what makes it particular and special. But we need to understand that khidma for the human being, for the Muslim, but mostly important for the murid, is what needs to entertain him. And by the process, we will explain what we think the Khalifs, the seven Khalifs that we know, Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, gave through that concept of khidma, true facts, not words, but facts.
So, understanding you is it the pillars of Islam, the worship itself, that is being described by Allah throughout the books and hadith? Is it part of in a centerfold inside the khidma, or is it separate from the work vis-a-vis of the social aspect of it, or it's a whole?
Definitely, when we talk about a theory, we search and we put a lot of components together. But the definition that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, because you told it when he said, Mustafa nawaitu ma yujaddidu sunnatul hara wa inni Ahmadu, he had a mission that was to revive the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. But what can we learn? What difference can we make between the spiritual aspect and the other aspect of khidma?
Right.
Serigne Touba used to say that zahiran wa batinan tawafakha. His zahir and his batin are the same.
Right.
So there are no specification, no separation between. That's why he's single. That's why he's just so special.
Right.
He didn't have that really unregular separation between his spiritual way of living and the actual social, economic, and political living. A man who had under his roof Sheikh Rafal and Serigne Mbacké Bousso is a special man.
Absolutely.
So he was teaching us to live in that special concept, putting by spiritual and temporal. And that's why defining Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is hard, because we can never know in which side to balance, and that is what makes him just unique. And that's why he said,
and also considering that he was exiled, and when he was in Gabon, usually there was no social works. He used to do, there was his writing, he said karamati khattu yadi, my karama of writings. And so the writing itself is part of a khidma he was doing himself. So coming back also to Senegal, how he he taught the khidmah itself to his closer disciples. How did they learn the philosophical, meaning of it?
By teaching them what he is doing by facts.
Right.
Cheikh Ahmad Bamba used to teach by facts. He never taught with words. He was not a person, humanity, he was not a person who talked too much. That's what Sheikh Muhammad Musara once told to us. But he teach by fact. And the way that they constantly used to work, you normally heard about this example when they say that at the prayer time, the disciples were working and they forgot to pray and they continue the work. And the Sheikh asked them to stop and to erase every single thing they done between the time of the prayer and this time. So that was showing that there was a really interesting perspective, an interesting relationship between those this spiritual and temporal activities and concept that we're talking about. But it's important to know that when Sheikh Ahmad Bamba taught us to work, he used to say, work as if you will never die. Pray and worship as if you will die today. So the murid needs to be in that really middle angle, and that's what's important and hard today to do, because it's all about the faith. It's all about what you feel inside. But when you work, and that's what I tell in my paperwork, that paperwork of khidmah, that if we use the theory of khidmah in our public strategies, in our public political strategies, we wouldn't need OFNAC. For example, OFNAC is the office which is fighting against corruption. Because people will have the main faith in their head and in their heart before doing something against God's law. The problem here today in our temporal, in our cities, is that God is not in his place. We put God after. We put it out. God is an outsider, like I say. In Senegal, and typically a lot of countries like Senegal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is an outsider. And that's what Sheikh Ahmad Bamba came to fight, to tell us that we need to put God in his truth and natural place, the central place, so that all our doings, all our facts, and all our thinking will remain to him. And that's how he taught us to act as khidmah.
So was there an emphasis on education? So he's saying about corruption. No wonder why he founded those daru, those schools that he had in Daru Mohti, he had in Ndam with Sayyid Ndam Abdurrahman Lo. So the education then in the khidmah way is fundamental, I guess.
Definitely. It's the first part. It's the E-kind. It's something without which, if there's no global education in the khidmah process, khidmah is not possible. Because as I told you, khidmah is just seeking for God's will, but through humanity, through people. So Sheikh Ahmad Bamba, the example, as in fact, he kind of built a kind of government, every and each part of this government working for something. You know that he gave Imam Chand Ibrahim
the means.
The means and the fact to entertain the family. He gave to Sayyid Masamba the Hasidas, taking care of the writing of Sheikh Ahmad Bamba, which is a very, very, very hard undertake. He gave Imam Shahanta all remaining to finance, etc. Sayyid Afia Mbake, he gave him the remains about the mosque and all those stuff. And again and again, and other sheikhs like Sheikh Rafal, and all of them. So he put every one of his sheikh in a place which he can handle it, and he can handle other people. And then he let them go under an interesting perspective of living, showing what they learned from Sheikh Ahmad Bamba. That's why when Sëñ Yaram Bay used to say, I cannot imagine Sheikh Ahmad Bamba, because I am with Sheikh Ahmad Bamba. He was talking about Mam Sheikh Ibrahim Fall, because through Mam Sheikh Ibrahim Fall, he was seeing Sheikh Ahmad Bamba. That is what is khidmah. It's at the point when yourself, you become that thing, you become that person which we're referring to, and that is consequently doing the stuff and entertaining the fact. And that's the work, the incredible work that no one ever succeed, that Sheikh Ahmad Bamba succeeds with his disciple, but most importantly with his brothers. So he just break that hard relationship which existed before between brothers which don't have the same mothers. So his little brothers accepted him, and he shared everything with them. Today, if you come in Sayyid Masamba's house, you will think that all the disciples of Muridism are at Sayyid Masamba's house. If you go to Darul Mufti, you will think that every single Murid is from Darul Mufti. So that's exciting thing that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba did with each and of his disciple. And that is what hikmah means. It's important.
MashaAllah. Mbacke Jamil. We were talking about the khidmah, that beautiful word from most of Sheikh Ahmad Bamba's writings. Khidmatu ghayrul alamin al-sharafat. And Antal Karimu, Anal Khadimu, Anal Khadimu, Dahran Udimu Fika Shanai. So she was trying to explain to you the definition of that particular word, which is the center of the philosophy of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. So we see that back then, during those times Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was here, we were colonized by the French, of course. So we weren't 100% free to do whatever we have to. So if there was darus, schools that was set by Sheikh Al-Khadim, how did they manage to vehicle that particular khidmah in front of those oppressors, if I can?
That is the great question.
Yeah.
The question by the Naufit saying, how did Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba succeed, knowing that he was never free?
Right.
From Gabon to Cheyenne to Mauritania until coming back to Jurbel, he was never free.
Right.
I think you were mentioning it in one of the poems that you wrote in this really a nice book. So it's showing that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba wanted to fight against those anti-values that were existing right there. When you see in Waibu, he tells us, and his hiyali min ad-dalali wa bil halali hadith sarai, seeking for benefits, but what benefits? Good one, halal ones, those which are approved by God. It's important. And that's why when I tell you that his work and his teaching were by fact, whenever he asked something to the Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala, he used to conduct, he used to behave like that, so that people, those who definitely were academicians, can read what Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba was saying, but those who couldn't, like me, who really don't have any knowledge at all, will look at the Sheikh and see how he is acting, and that way they will learn. So from the time in Jurbel, we know that 15 years in Jurbel was definitely, like I say, the hot spot of the Murid Brotherhood. A lot of stuff happened, and those tumble that we're talking about, when the Sheikh used to call all the Sheikhs and used to talk to them and tell them stuff and tell them stories also. So the main thing I was telling you about the brothers of the Sheikh and the disciples, when the Sheikh was not here, they were acting as if the Sheikh was here, and they gave everything to the one, to the oldest. Was Mamour. We know the story between Mamour Jara, Borom Sam Magimak, and his little brothers, and after Mamour Jara, Mam Cherno, Mam Sheikh Anta, etc. So they built themselves in one block to go against the French colonizers. And that war, because Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba talked about jihad, but he talked about what jihad? Jihad of knowledge, and that's what he tell us in Halo. وَلَسْ تُرَدِّيَ حَيْرَ الْهِلْمِ وَالدِّينِ. My preference is knowledge and the religion. So he made his choice, and that was not the choice of the French colonizer, who said, we will stop him. Because as one of my father tell me why Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba came to Jurbel, when he told them that at a point my age don't allow me to go everywhere anytime. So the next place that you will take me, I will stay there. And they went to France to study in Senegal which area will be the hardest one for the Sheikh to live, and they saw that it was Jurbel. The climate, all that, and they bring the Sheikh to Jurbel. So look at that hardness, as if they didn't had a heart beating. And what did Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba say in Rabbi when he prayed for all the humanity, showing that he had a really interesting perspective of living. Like I say, we can define him as a human being. A human being have a heart, and a heart goes to revenge, because even in Islam we tell us, if you can handle it, you can have revenge, but in the same peace as you were feeded.
He forgave them all. He said, and
that is showing that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, his entire life was a mysterious. And even before, when they told him to take the place of his father, what he told them in Halo Liyarkan Abwabi Salatini, telling them that he don't need their goods. The only God that he has is the one who can't be defeated. And we can go approach the history, but through your question, the organization, and like I say, the Murid management, which were existing when the Sheikh was not here, was a undefeated management, because it was based on the knowledge that the Sheikh left to them. It was based on the talibe. It was based on the fact that people were sharing. You know, when Sayyid Musaka say in his célèbre poem, ñuy aaye njël yi di aaye tool bi taalub sëriñ bi daal di fay fi Tuuba tey cee ko bu teg booba. At that moment, it was definitely hard. Meaning that at that moment, they were refusing to them to wear their clothes. They were refusing to them to wear the maktub.
To be African.
To be African.
Right.
They wanted them to be French. They wanted them to be complex people who were looking themselves with the eye of the other.
Right.
And he said that the firehood of the Sheikh was blinking in Tuba. And he said, oh, today is different than yesterday.
Right.
So showing that we definitely, when we see the Magal today, more than 4 million people going to Tuba, coming from everywhere in the world.
Right.
People like us who were raised in the other countries, which were not Senegal,
Right.
but who definitely know who Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is.
Mashallah.
And sometimes for others, they know it better than people who are born in Tuba. That is showing that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba said in Muhaddimatu Amda, Bikawni Khadimul Mustafa Tatabayanu. The fact that he is Khadimul Mustafa, the work that he was doing, the khidmah, Khadimul Mustafa, will never end and will continue shining.
Mashallah.
And that's why today in English we were having this debate.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Inni ujahidu bil ulum wa
Wal-tuqa.
bituqa. And we see also if you go back to when he was in Chain, just a place, a compound, he was before they moved him to Jurbel. In terms of disciples and sheikh, there's on the training side, there's also, you know, a contact that has to be going on. And when we see, if you see in Jewel area, in what do you call them again, in Chain area, before even the disciple went to see the sheikh, they had to write a special note. You know, they had to be allowed to go there. So there wasn't that much contact between him and most of the disciples. Coming back to Jurbel also, there was this you know, difference of this, you know, gap between him and them in terms of communication. So how he communicated with them, through writings or other means?
If we can categorize, I can tell you, how did he communicate with the youth? By Tazawudu Shahar. How did he communicate with the biggers? By Tazawudu Shuban. How did he communicate with
books
elders?
He writes.
Definitely.
Right.
He wrote
Educational books. Right.
He wrote words for every single being living.
Right.
So how did he communicate with older people who wanted to know how to behave? How do he communicate with people who wanted to remember the hereafter, who wanted to remember the over after?
Right.
All those books, Mulayinu Sudur, Munawiru Sudur, etc. So Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba had this
the last
perspective.
one, which is Mazalikul Jinan.
Mazalikul Jinan.
Right.
Mazalikul Jinan, and the other books.
Right.
So, and in that point, he was teaching them how to define their Iman, their Islam, and their Ihsan. But he word other, that's why I categorize the writing of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba in two pieces.
Right.
The first one, teaching the person how to behave and how to live as a Muslim. And the second one, having this Ihsan, the personal connection that he will have with God, and the spiritual perfection that he's leading to.
Right.
Mafatihul Bishri, for example, and all the benefits that he told in through al-Khasida.
Right.
So there were not this human contact with the Sheikh, because for the most of the time he was not even here, and in the time that he was here, it was difficult to see him and to have an exchange with him.
Right.
But the Sheikh understood that if today we are acting as the Prophet who was here 1,400 years ago,
Right.
he could have that connection by the writings for with his disciples who were in the same country, but the viewing was difficult, and the colonizers understand that. That's why at the end of the life of the Sheikh, they slowed down, they loosened up a lot of stuff and let people come to see him, etc. Because at the moment they understood that we can do nothing.
They were
about
peaceful
the Sheikh.
people.
So the project was, as we can't defeat Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, he's a mystery for us, he's a mysterious for us, we can define him.
Right.
Let's try to concentrate on his legacy after he gone.
Right.
And they thought it was Mam Cherno, actually. Yeah. So they
were
start
supposed to perpetrate
that's definitely
the legacy,
and
right.
the sons definitely trying to have contact.
So before we get through that particular issue, how was the status of the khidmah itself when he demised? how was what happened to, you know, the community he set up, the darus, the schools that he installed already? How did they manage?
After I told you, after teaching them what to do, after showing them how to do it, he let them do it. So he gave a kind of liberty, freedom, a little freedom. So Sheikh he let those sheikhs go away. And they went to definitely merge new cities, merge new ways, bring new people to the brotherhood. And that's why at that moment it was really difficult, because they didn't understand. They thought that everyone is going. But the sheikh sent them as missionaries to go and to lead the brotherhood. And that's why when he came back, the days that he had in Darus Salam, and he found that Mamsha Anta who did an excellent job in Darus Salam, Darul Muhti, Darul Karim that he led to Sayyid Masamba, but also all the other villages that were merged by Sayyid Manumbe Mbake, by Sayyid Afia Mbake, and all that. So the Sheikh taught them how to work, how to handle working with the French, and then he gave them this opportunity to prove that they understood that concept of khidmah. And they went to interpret it in a really, really beautiful way.
MashaAllah. And also, after he passed away, there was his brothers, you know, his siblings around, but the first Khalif was Sayyid Modou Mustafa. And then he has, you know, to keep going with the teaching of that philosophy of khidmah. How did he handle it? Back then there was the colonizers, they still here. We were free, independent in 1960. So how did Sayyid Modou Mustafa handle it in his achievement?
As I defined in the paper, I think that Sayyid Modou Mustafa is he's just incredible. Because when he came at that moment, the environment and the context, he led the heritage and the legacy of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is just unbelievable. As if we were in the Bronx, I'll tell you, this is crazy, man. It's hard to believe that at that point people were saying this is enough. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is gone. Each of us will go to his corner and we will remember him in peace. And Sheikh Muhammad al-Mustafa had the buns to say no. We will work it together. We will do it together. And he started the project of the mosque. He started the project of the train station. He started the project of the community. But I think that the project, the society project of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, why is today we're living it is because of Sayyid Modou Mustafa. He did an excellent work.
Unifying
people and telling them this is it. This is not me. This is our. That's what he used to say, that if I get wrong, 1,000 people get wrong. And then comes Sayyid Fallou, coming and continuing.
Before Sayyid Fallou, you can notice also there was World War II from 39 to 45. So he achieved that in a very particular hard time back then. And as you mentioned, he accomplished a great deal of success in the khidmah part.
Because the French colonizers were in their head, they're like, the father is gone. The father was undefeated, but the son, we can defeat him in 2 seconds. And Sayyid Modou Mustafa showed them, he didn't tell them, but he showed them that what's in my father is definitely in me today. Because Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba so Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is still here. And Sayyid Modou Mustafa started teaching that. If he didn't act the way he acted, the murid, the brotherhood will be different today. Because today we are all acting as if Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba is one and unique, representing Sheikh Sidi Makhtar today. But if Sheikh Muhammad al-Mustafa acted in a way of showing himself, it will be really different today.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. And then we can, as Sheikh Ahmad Bamba said in one of his poems, Tuba li abdin sadiqin muridin,
طوبى لحد المريد صادق له بخدمة أو بحب أو حديات. It's interesting to see the perspective of khidmah. It's the first place. You need to work, but what kind of work? I was telling you that Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was seeking for benefits which are halal. What kind of work? The work in which you will have, it's like one ball and 2 bumps. You will have the will of God, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you will also work through humanity. That's why before loving, and before giving your money or whatever, you need to work for it. So he teaches in that word, before giving
Right.
something, you need to own that.
Right.
So he definitely, because in every word of Cheikh Ahmed, we can interpret it in 1,000 different meanings.
Right, right.
But in saying that, what I wanted to say about Seigne Fallou, after Seigne Modou Moustapha, because in that part it was really, really difficult also, because Senegal has its independence
Right.
formally, because I don't consider Senegal
No
as an
kidding.
independent
Right.
a country. When
Right.
I used to say that when we say we are 95% of Muslims, I say that Senegal, the country, is Muslim as I can be Chinese, because I don't think that our institutions are Muslim enough. That's another
Right,
debate.
right.
But Seigne Fallou came in that context. The first president was a Catholic. So those colonizers before, they're still there.
Right.
And trying to see how the evolution will be. And Seigne Fallou showed them that Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba is a pacifist.
Right.
And through him, through his being, Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba showed them that I can be remaining with Senghor in a peaceful way.
In a peaceful manner.
Yeah, in a peaceful manner. And
Right.
then we can take the example of Cheikh Abdou Lahad with Abdou Diouf.
Absolutely.
Cheikh Abdou Lahad, if we talk about him, it's going to take days and days. We can show Serigne Saliou Mbacké with Abdoulaye Wade, etc. Alhaji Bara
Right.
with Abdoulaye Wade and the President Macky Sall,
Right.
and even Cheikh Sidi Makhtar. So it's just understanding that those who are here are acting through that pedagogy that Cheikh Ahmed Bamba showed them, that teach them by al-khidma.
Right.
Means they are worshipping God, but they're doing it through humanity.
Right.
When Cheikh Sidi Makhtar gave 1 billion francs CFA for the Ivernage
Right.
problems,
Right.
he could have
The
kept it
flood.
for
Right.
Touba,
Right.
but he showed that he is worshipping God, but through humanity. That's the perfect example of
Right,
al-khidma.
beautiful. That's the beautiful part, social part of Al-Khidma, which is being done also in a city that belongs to Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba, which is Touba. He founded in 1888, if my numbers are exact. And also, a part of the Khidma, you can consider also the building of the particular mosque, started by Cheikh Ahmadou Bamba himself throughout the first and the second. Still today, there's also changes also happening in that particular mosque. So if there's a quick lecture of the present time, how the khidma's doing in our community, compares to how they used to do during those times and today. What's the lecture, general lecture you're going to have on it?
Before, really quickly, before answering this perspective of yesterday and today
Right.
of the khidma, you talked about Touba. It is today important to show and to notice and to highlight that Touba have different characteristics which are amazing in the world today. When in UNESCO, they heard about this city in the corner of Senegal,
Right.
which no one